Hart's new album, Awakening. It is awesome, and you can find it on her website, of course. You know, when I look at Lauren's life, I think rock star in the south of France, let's go through it, to landing a major record deal with Columbia Records in LA, then grieving the death of her famous dad, Gene Hart. A few months later, you're diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Then you lose the record deal. Shame on you, guys. During the fight of your life, we won't talk about that whole thing, and naughty you, Columbia. But I mean, where do you get your strength from that? You're titanium woman.
You know, I don't know, and anybody that's been in that position of crisis, you know, you don't have really any choice, but you either say, I'm going to stay right where I am and let it take me, or I'm going to take steps forward all the time, and that's just what I tried to do, even if it were, you know, honestly, some days 15 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, let's get to the next hour, you know, and sometimes life is like that, and it's just, now when I think about it, I don't know how I did it, you know, because I think sometimes now that I have kids, what would I do if something like that happened to me now? And it's just, you know, it's so scary for me to think of that, but at the time, I think your mind and your body just goes on autopilot, and you do what you need to do.
And you, at the time, the doctors gave you a 50-50 chance of survival.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
young woman in your 30s.
Yeah, it's not something you ever think you'll hear, you know, especially at a young age. And it's just more prevalent than you even realize. And it was a shock. It was a shock. But, you know, often survivors say, well, you know, it was a gift. Well, it's not a gift.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Let's be real
But
here.
the gifts you receive because of it are enormous. And, you know, that moment in time will forever shape my whole life. And so what came after that was a much more positive and you know, great experience for me, and since that time it's just been a kind of a little ramp up, nice and easy, but it keeps going up, and you know, you try not to look back and just keep going forward.
But at the time, I think you had told me that you felt like your dad, Gene Hart, legendary voice of the Flyers, best friend, he had just lost his battle to cancer. It happened quickly, and you told me that you felt like, you know, he was in heaven, or his spirit was with you, and that he was helping you through that.
Yeah, I did, and I did feel very connected to my father. It was, you know, it was a really rough time. And when I did get the diagnosis, I thought to myself, well, he's looking out for me. And I thought, no matter which way this goes, my dad's looking out for me, and I'm either going to be here or I'm going to be with him, or just, you know, it gave me a sense of stability and a sense of peace, and that's so strange to say, but I really felt, you know, at that time, I really felt at peace in a lot of ways, and so it's just an interesting thing where your feelings take you when you're faced with challenges like that.
And you also said your Flyers family was with you. I mean, you've talked about the fact that, you know, there you were, bald as a cue ball. Sometimes you wore a bandana, sometimes not. But that you felt that everybody just embraced you, and it was like Rocky, because you were not going to miss. You never missed a game.
That's right. Well, you know, when my dad passed away, you know, the fans so loved him. And when he passed away, all that love was transferred to me. And then when I went out and had this sort of public, you know, battle with this illness, it's a sealed the fate there for somehow, I don't know how to explain it, but the fans and that.
Well, I think they felt like we all felt, everybody felt like they were fighting with you.
Yeah, and you know, it's a magic time. I got out there every night and I felt so powerful singing. And I know now, you know, there are days where I'm like, oh, I gotta sing, I'm not feeling great. But I remember that time and said, if you did it then, you could do it now. And my goal at the time was just to be able to get down there and sing for that minute and a half.
Because you were in the midst of chemo treatments.
Right.
I mean, people have to think of that, going through chemo, what you go through, and there you were performing before these huge crowds.
Yeah, and so when I started, I have to admit it was selfish, because I didn't want to let go of the music. I wanted to feel still alive, and it made me feel alive to be able to sing. And you know, I had other loss at the time too, so that was one thing I wanted to hold on to. And I've connected since that time, over a decade now, it's been over 10 years, and I've connected with so many fans who still come up to me and say, you know, I was going through the same thing at the same time, or, you know, now, you know, my sister just got diagnosed, or my mother or my father, and it's a common bond, and it's just, you know, it's really about when we talk about like when bad things happen, people rise to the occasion. Well, I see it all the time.
And now you're a peer
it's
counselor,
amazing.
right? I mean, you volunteer
Yes.
and you do a lot in the community.
I do. You know, like survivors, they can go either way. They either want to distance
Right.
or they dive in, and it's like how people heal. And so I dove in, and you know, it's been a really good thing for me to give back, because I know when I was sick, some of the major turning points for me was were when others reached out to me. You know, I had a friend from high school who I hadn't heard from or seen in so many years, and called me and said, "I had the same thing. I'm still here, and so are you going to be too." And it was like a light bulb went on, and I thought, you know, I'm going to do this for other people, because it's so powerful to have that kind of support. And, you know, so I still do it. I still do it now.
I know you do. It's amazing.
And I've gotten some of the most amazing, beautiful, wonderful friends, you know, that we've
Kyle.
Yep, that
We
we've
had a-
that we've met under, you know, hard circumstances, but it's forged these amazing friendships.
So we have to show the great pictures of you and Todd in Borneo, because you're an animal lover. You guys are dog lovers. And we have to show these pictures of these orangutans, which are endangered in the world, and you can see your love for the animals. Why did you do this, and why do you think animals in general just help us heal?
You know, that's a really good question. I think because when you look at animals, it's like children. You know, it's on the most simplistic level, you know, that you relate. And, you know, it's just something that I can't really describe where it came from, but I always had an affinity for animals. And my dad used to, when we would travel, he would always want to see like the primates, the gorillas and the orangutans. That was like his thing that he wanted to take his kids to. And that love just grew and grew. And so when I met Todd, to find out that he was a primate lover too, you know, kind of clicked for us, you know. And so we went on these great adventures into Indonesia and all over Africa, you know, hiking for gorilla. And the pictures that you saw were from a rehabilitation site in Borneo, where we were able to stay with this Dr. Galdikas, who she is like the Jane Goodall of the orangutan world. She went as a young woman, and so now she rescues these babies who are really displaced because of, you know, farming and palm oil and encroachment on their territory. So she brings them all in, and she teaches them the wild, and then she you know, sends them all back. But they're so much like children that, I mean, it's just jaw-dropping. They're so much just like children.
It's a great story. It's amazing that you and Todd found them and helped them out and are an important voice for them. Okay, we got to get back to that trivia because of with the diving horse. Can we show the trivia really quick, or do we want to hold that? Can we show the trivia question about the diving horse? So who is the famous 1956 daredevil, Beauty in a Bikini, with the AC diving horse?
Well,
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
her name would be Sarah Detweiler, who soon after the diving horse became Sarah Hart, who is my mom. Yeah, that was like late 50s, early 60s. She and her sister were part of that water circus down at the Steel Pier. It's where she met my father. And yeah, that's different. That's a different trick to have in your bag of tricks. But yeah, it's pretty unique. It's an interesting trivia question. And you know, people that grew up in this area and know the Jersey Shore, everybody knows the diving horse.
Lauren's connection to Sinatra, Harry Belafonte, Springsteen, President Obama, Clinton, when the conversation continues here on The Dawn Show.